In many ways, the Tagies come full circle tonight. 6 years ago, hard to believe, our next presenter was the inaugural recipient of the Tagie Lifetime Achievement Award. This year he's back, along with BMT's other founding member, Morrison Terzian, to present this year's Lifetime Achievement Award to Howard Morrison. We're going to play a video now that they put together along with BMT to honor Howard tonight.
When I first came here, Marvin, he didn't, without saying it exactly, but my impression of what this company's philosophy was is, look guys, here's all facilities you need. You've got material, you've got machinery, you've got other people to talk to, you've got customers, you've got good working conditions. All I want you to do is make me toys.
Here it comes, the Hall of Power from Sonic Sound. Now, when you pull that T-stick, those SSP racers howl with power. Dig that. Round and round go the lights and the sound. Simon picks up speed as he goes. Simon wins by enough.
Now see what you made me do.
Sorry.
Would you stand me on my head?
Like this?
Now, Mary, we know get how.
It's real talking Bubba. He's the real talking joke playing best friend bear, and you can't help it.
Jabba Jabba is a little around. His fuzzy head wobbles all around. Give him a shake, that's all it'll take. See what Jabba Jabba's got to say.
You don't say.
With direction, traction, shut. They're even overcoming the military.
But when both halves compete with each other, purple, and the synapse response accelerates. Yellow, orange, white, green. It'll flip your brain insane. Orange, purple, yellow, green, red. Brain warp, new from Tiger.
The idea of having something that would always want to go you one better. Always want to go you one better. So I went in, I talked to the partners about it, and as a matter of fact, I demonstrated the idea by saying, okay, Jeff, I'm going to do this. Okay? Now you do that and add one. And he did it, and he added one. And then I said, okay, I do that and add one. And we kept doing that to each other till we realized that I couldn't remember anymore. And I said, I want to make a game that does that to you by itself with lights. He says, that sounds like a good idea. So I went ahead and worked out a game and made a prototype, and this was really the first prototype of Simon. It was 4 colored buttons, and it in fact played the original game that's in Simon today.
The invention of toys, I love with a passion. I've lived lots of years, but I'm not too old-fashioned.
And although as you see me, all mature and refined, I'm still just a child deep inside of my mind.
It is pretty cool that at my advanced age, I can think like a child and still earn a wage.
And it's great to recall my growing up fun and relive the experience of my days in the sun.
For instance, I remember just what it is like, the heart-thumping joy when I rode my first bike.
And the imaginary adventures that go on in my mind are better than TV, I usually find.
I did tricks with my yo-yo that earned me some fame. I still play with my yo-yo, but it's just not the same.
And who could forget the games we all played, like Monopoly, Operation, and even Old Maid.
I especially like the games of my own invention that I played with just girls I'd better not mention.
These icons of toys were not easy to sell, but I loved every minute of the show and the time.
I never dreamed for a second that my childhood fun would last me a lifetime, but I'm the lucky one.
I've tried to explain just what makes me tick. I hope you've enjoyed all my lyrical shtick. Now let's get back to partying. Lickety split.
As Mary likes to say, the Beatles are getting back together tonight. Please welcome to the stage the original founders of Breslow, Morrison, and Terzian, today called Big Monster Toys, Jeffrey Breslow, Howard Morrison, and Morrison Terzian.
If one picture is worth 1,000 words, one video is going to be worth 100,000 words. And in order to honor Howard, I've written down just a few words. Anyhow, I'll cut it a little short. First of all, many thanks to Mary and Tim for doing such an incredible job with this event. It's just overwhelming. A huge thanks to Don Rosenwinkel and the incredible talented BMT for putting together that amazing tribute to this incredible man. If we had the footage, it could have been a feature film. Breslow, Morrison, Terzian. You need to know something. When we started the company in 1998, 25 years ago, the names on the door were simply alphabetical. If my last name was Zuckerman, the company would have been Morrison, Terzian, and Zuckerman. There is no other reason that my name was first. We were equal partners for 31 years. And for all those years, we were equal. Equal in our interest in the company, equal in our salary, equal in the decision-making of hiring, firing, and how we compensated our employees, equal in our choices for new partners, equal in our desire to work hard and build the best toy design company in the world, which we did. There was one major area where there was no equality. No equality whatsoever. Howard was the best toy designer of the three of us. Howard was the most creative, Howard was the most productive, Howard was the most versatile. Howard's creations brought in the lion's share of the income for the company. Howard was the best toy designer in the world. I did mostly games, Ruben did mostly dolls. As you saw in the video, Howard did it all. Howard did games, Howard did dolls, Howard did vehicles, Howard did ride-ons, Howard did plush, Howard did electronics, he did mechanics. Howard kept coming up with ideas with his incredible sense of humor. Howard is still the sweetest man I have ever known in my life. He connected with all the people in our company in a wonderful way that made people at Morrison, Terzian, and Zuckerman, Breslow, feel like family. Howard has the heart of a young child. The child has always been inside of Howard, and he never let it go. Never losing your child has been the secret of successful toy design. Howard did a ride-on, and and we had this client from England, Richard Beecham, and Howard was the one that could pedal it. He did the ride-on. We had this big conference room, and Richard was the kind of guy that did this or did this in 1 second for the toy. We opened the back door to this large, Howard pedaled the thing in, Richard took one look and he went like this, and Howard kept pedaling right out the other door. We didn't sell that one to Richard. One last story. When we closed Marvin Glass, we had an art collection, and there were a lot of wonderful things, and there was one thing that Howard and Ruben and I all loved. It wasn't an expensive piece of art, but it was a small Emily Kaufman piece. And we drew straws, literally drew straws, and Howard ended up with the piece. This was 1988. 8 years later, fast forward, my wife Jen and I were getting married, and Howard and Pauline called us up to their house to come visit them in Deerfield. And there was a big box, beautifully wrapped with wedding paper, 8 years after we closed the company. And I started opening the box, and I started unwrapping bubble wrap, and when I saw the top of what was in there, I started to cry, and I'm having trouble right now. It was this piece of art that Howard had won 8 years earlier that he had given as a wedding gift to Jen and I. No one deserves this. No one deserves this award more than Howard. Howard, I love you.
I prepared myself for 10 days, but I forgot my notes at the hotel. So I had to write it on the program. Anyway. I was almost 2 weeks at Marvin Glass when Marvin's assistant walked in with this little man. And he said, "Here's your roommate." And I looked at him, he made a face like this. That was Howie. He said, "Let's set the rules." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, I smoke." I said, "So do I." He said, "Nobody's gonna call me." I said, "Nobody's gonna call me either." He said, "You answer the phone because there's a telephone right on your desk." Anyway, I was smoking stupid cigarettes, and Howard smoking those god-awful Tiparillo, what were those? Cigars with a plastic tip. Terrible. 2 weeks later, Marvin walked in. He said, "You thought you had this room by yourself, right?" He says, "Now you're gonna, here's the man. You two have to make it work." Howard was creating products I couldn't believe. He made a bank. We had a talking Viewmaster, remember that? So we had a whole recording studio. So Howard came up with a talking bank. And so you put in a dime, it said something, you put a nickel, it said something else. And it just occurred to me, and I asked him, I said, "Howard, when you put a penny, it said something." And he started thinking, "I can't think about it. I can't think of it." So here's the line. Howard, you gotta help me. What was that again? Okay, here it is. "Pennies are very filling." Howard was very funny. He was the humor of the company. You had to have humor in everything that you had to do. You had to have fun. "Pennies are," this is his words, "pennies are filling, but they won't make you rich. Put in some more nickels and dimes, you cheap son of a bitch." Remember that? You can't say that. He said, "Well, we're having fun." And Marvin heard it, he liked it, but he said, "We can't do that." But nevertheless, that was, okay, from then on, everything had to be funny and fun. So anyway, let me look at my notes, whatever I had written. But when we started together, Marvin Glass, 3 of us. Jeff was the golden boy. He was making all these games. And I figured out, well, I can make a game too. So I came up with a game. I walked in just like you walked out with a ride-on. I walked out with it. That was Jeff's domain. And what was it? Lionel Weintraub, he said to Marvin, "I think this kid should stick to dolls." From then on, I said, okay, that's it. Back to Howard again. Howard always encouraged me. He was always there to support. He always, if I was discouraged, he would. Howard, I learned a lot from you. I don't know how you came up with all these mechanical. I learned the ropes from you. I learned everything from you. Thank you. Your contributions generated so much money to Marvin Glass and then to BMT. It got us going. Thank you again. Thank you. I'm going to tell you something. If you weren't there, we wouldn't have had BMT. BMT, the fact that we were successful, it was encouragement to many of you that these guys can make it after the demise of Marvin Glass, early demise of Marvin Glass. We can do it also. Thanks to you again. Because just like Jeff said, whether it was the SSPs or the Mickey Mouse telephone or Simon, I mean, that was a validation that toy invention is an industry that can survive after we're all gone. Thank you again. That was Howard.
Good evening, everyone. It's certainly a good evening for me. Anyway, when Jeffrey called and told me that I would be the recipient of this award, I was wonderfully surprised and thrilled, and I was very touched by this news. There's no greater honor than to be recognized by those in your own profession, and I am very grateful to accept this award. This is a real pleasure for me. There are many people to thank tonight, so please bear with me. My thanks to everybody involved with ShyTag and making the Tagie Awards possible, especially Mary Cousins, who started the Tagie Awards recognizing toy designers and the importance of their contribution in bringing fun into the lives of our children. Mary needs to be, and I must say, Mary really needs to be honored, even though she's already spoken, we have seen her, but I would say, Mary, thank you again so much for everything that you have done and made our profession something that is as worthwhile as you have made it. And Jeff and Ruben, I want to thank you both for the wonderful introduction and a partnership that lasted for 31 years without a day of significant disagreement. I mean, we had a few, but it was okay. We no longer work together in the toy industry, but our friendship has endured for 46 years and continues to this day and will continue till we're no longer around. And to my partner, Don Rosenwinkel, and all the people at BMT, I want to say thank you for the very special video we just saw. It was wonderful. It's hard to believe that I was that young. However, in my mind, I still am. I don't have to think about what I'm going to be when I grow up, because I've been just growing down in this business. Would Don and all of the current and past BMT partners and employees please stand just to be recognized? I would appreciate it. I want to thank also my 6 children, who were my toy testers and my consumers, and their spouses, and the 12 grandchildren they have produced. And now I have a 1-year-old, I also have a 1-year-old great-grandson His name is Noah. And one of my next goals is to ski with him in a couple of years. And I must say that to my wife, Pauline, my sweetheart of 42 years, I want to say thank you for putting up with me all these years. And you deserve your very own Lifetime Achievement Award. Although they're not here to see me receive this award, I know my parents would be proud, and I would like to thank them for encouraging me and allowing me to build, create, and invent at a very young age. When I was a little boy, I used to make little dolls out of yarn, and I'd walk up and down a street where I lived near Devon Avenue, and I sold them for 25 cents. I sold all the dolls I could make, but soon figured out a way to make a winding machine that could make 12 dolls at a time. And my mother was so excited that she contributed to my young entrepreneurial spirit by crocheting little hats and sometimes little jackets for these dolls. And I would sell these dolls for 50 cents. Every night I would make a number of dolls, and every day after school I would sell out. Just imagine my mother's excitement when she realized she was raising a genius. And to bring balance into my young life, my dad and I set up a workshop in the basement of the apartment building where we lived so that I could take things apart, capture the mechanisms in my mind, and putting them back together, hopefully they would still work. I would spend hours building things and went on to build my own motor scooter. And at 14, I built my own Whizzer motorbike. Since you needed a driver's license to ride a motor scooter, my dad taught me how to drive his car so that I could get a license. I was only about 14, and I could just barely see over the steering wheel. But I did get the license, and what a great dad I had, and what a happy kid I was. My educational career took many twists and turns, and after 1 year at Senn High School here in Chicago, I transferred to Lane Tech High School because of my interest in engineering. I started college at the University of Illinois studying architecture, and then I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, Wisconsin, to study electrical engineering, and finally I went to Illinois Institute of Technology here in Chicago. Eventually I became an electrical engineer, and my passion for invention and toys led me to Strombecker Corporation, where I was a product engineer working on road racing, cars, and games, and got seriously interested in the toy industry. In November of 1967, still not satisfied with my career and longing to invent, I was hired by the legendary Marvin Glass, where I spent the rest of my career inventing toys. Jeffrey started with Marvin in 1967, and Ruben and I were both hired in November of the same year, and we ended up sharing the same office. Eventually, the three of us became partners with Marvin Glass, and in 1988 closed the company to start our own toy invention studio known as BMT, which is really Breslow, Morrison, and Terzian, which ultimately became Big Monster Toys, now headed up by Don Rosenwinkel. I feel like I have lived the life of a real Peter Pan, the boy that never grew up, one of Santa's elves, or even Tom Hanks' character in the wonderful movie Big. I was lucky enough to have worked with some of the greatest creative people and had the best partners one could hope for. To all the young aspiring designers and inventors, I'd like to say that toys and games come from the imagination, turning a dream and a thought into reality. Sure, you're not always going to have a home run, but stay with the game because the next hit could be your major success. In closing, I must share with you something that Pauline and I experienced just about 2 weeks ago. We were just finishing a Chinese dinner and got two fortune cookies with our dessert. I picked one and Pauline picked the other, and I opened mine first. And this is what it said: "You will be honored with a prestigious prize or reward." Now, how magic can that be? And Pauline's fortune read, "Keep up the good work. You will be rewarded within the month." Can you imagine that? Anyway, all I can say is that fortune cookies must really be magic and real. And I am humbled and most grateful for this award for this evening. And thank you very much.
Howard Morrison, ladies and gentlemen.